We, the brothers in Ghana, are extremely indebted to Delany Foundation. We thank you from our hearts for all the support you have given to us. As the Ghanaians say, Aiko Vayadiapa Namisrao, meaning, you have done well. May God bless you.
Ireland of the 18th century was in a sad state. Centuries of British occupation had contributed to its state of oppression and hopelessness, whose citizens were mainly an uneducated peasantry. One young Irishman of the times was far more fortunate than most. His family had some fairly well-off relatives with good connections, who combined to send him to Paris for an education. There he was a diligent scholar and studied for the priesthood. Against his own preference, but at his mother's wish, he returned to Ireland and was assigned to the parish of Tullow, in the rural country of Carlow. His name was Daniel Delany, and after years of college life in Paris, he was appalled at the poverty and the ignorance of his parishioners. He remained in Tullow after he was ordained as bishop. Reflecting on his own experience, he knew that education would be a liberating influence for children and young people, with much potential to improve their future prospects. Access to school education in Ireland was limited to a very tiny and elite minority, mainly the children of wealthy English landlords and English ascendancy. Bishop Delany invited a few of the more savvy local women and men he knew to seek to provide some basic education for children of the parish. From these groups he founded two religious congregations: the Sisters of St. Bridget, the Brigidines, in 1807, and the Brothers of St. Patrick, the Patricians, in 1808. Their mission was to provide a good education with religious and spiritual values as an integral component for the children and youth of Tullow. Eventually, the Brigidines and the Patricians carried that mission to other places in Ireland, and subsequently to some overseas settings. At the invitation of Irish bishops, the Patricians came to Australia in 1883. Originally they went to Maitland, and subsequently they went in twos and threes to several other rural places, leading and working in the emerging system of Catholic schools. Many of those early Irish brothers separated from families and loved ones in Ireland, and suffering from hardships and sicknesses, died at early ages. Eventually, the Patricians regrouped back in Sydney, establishing schools at Redfern, Waterloo, Forest Lodge and Ryde. With the westward expansion of Sydney in the 1940s and 50s, the brothers collaborated with church authorities in the foundation of schools at Granville, Blacktown, Fairfield and Liverpool. From the 1880s until the late 1960s, non-government schools in Australia received no monies from the state or federal governments. Catholic schools, for the most part, subsisted on modest school fees, parish support, an unsalaried workforce of brothers and nuns, along with a variety of fundraising initiatives. Generally, these were decades of great struggle and hardship to sustain resources and services. This was particularly so in the 1950s and 1960s, in places where the Patricians were located, and when there was an explosion in waves of migrants, mainly from post-war Europe. In 2008, the Patricians celebrated their bicentenary of foundation. 40 years earlier, the first trickle of government funding to Catholic schools had commenced, and 40 years later, the resources and facilities of these schools had been advanced significantly. As part of the bicentenary celebrations, representatives of the brothers, along with the principals of the Patrician schools, resolved to set up a foundation whose main purpose would be to support the works of Patrician Brothers in a number of developing countries where they were operating schools with virtual no government financial support. Mindful of the history of the brothers in Australia and inspired by the vision and courage of the founder, Bishop Daniel Delany, the Delany Foundation was established in 2009. The foundation is a legally constituted body with 9 directors, 3 of whom are Patrician Brothers, the remaining 6 are lay people. All the directors work in a voluntary capacity and the foundation has no salaried staff. Since its establishment, the foundation has supported a variety of causes and projects to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Most of this money has gone to places of Patrician mission in Kenya, Ghana, Papua New Guinea and India. Again, most of this money was directed to the support of education, honouring the conviction of Daniel Delany that education is the key towards a brighter future and a more satisfying life.
The school administration and students, I would like to thank the board of directors of Delany Foundation, the principals of Patrician schools and colleges for their kind donation that has enabled us to carry out so many activities in the school. Thank you. God bless you all.
In 1961, a small number of Patrician Brothers went to Kenya to work in Catholic mission schools. For many years, it was brothers from Ireland who continued to lead and to teach in schools there. Now there are but 3 elderly Irish brothers in Kenya, and it is patricians of Kenyan birth who are seeking to consolidate and to expand Catholic schools in places of great need. It is for these reasons that the Delany Foundation has focused especially Kenya as a setting that is heavily dependent on overseas aid to survive and to develop in bringing education to African children. In the places where the brothers are working, the school is more than just a setting for formal education. It is a community centre where nutritious meals are provided, along with healthcare services in some instances. A latest project of the brothers is the establishment of a boarding secondary school, St. Patrick's, adjacent to a primary school established by the brothers some years ago in the rural setting of Kabongo. Getting basic building facilities for St. Patrick's was a first step. It is now the process of furnishing and resourcing the facility as enrolments increase each year. Resources that would be taken as given in opening new schools in Australia are in short supply in Kenya. The procurement of tables, chairs, books, science equipment and supplies, computers, etc., is a real struggle and is almost totally dependent on donations. By comparison, Australia is a wealthy and stable nation with a high quality of life. The main purpose of the Delany Foundation is to make a humanitarian response, however small, that may bring hope and liberation to African children through the work of Kenyan Patrician Brothers. As circumstances of special needs demand, the Delany Foundation also contributes to projects in other countries and in Australia. Please support the Delany Foundation in its efforts to make a difference in the lives of many.